So we're going to read this definition, the apothegm, which is a weird word. Like, I think of possum when okay. Draw a line from the center and connect it to the midpoint of any of the sides. So I'm going to pause for a second, and I want you to do that on your paper. And that is, you are drawing an apothegm when you do that. I'm going to draw mine down to the bottommost side. So if you want yours to look like mine, draw your apothegm from the center down to the midpoint of the side. All right, so I'm going to show you what an apothegm looks like. And it just looks like this. So this is something you're going to have to draw in on each one, and you're like, well, this is a weird word. Like, why is it called that? That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that, why it's called an apothegm. But it just connects any regular polygon. And remember, a regular polygon just means a polygon. It can have any number of sides, but all the lines are going to be straight. And then it's going to be a convex shape to where all the vertices point out, and all the sides and angles are the same length. So in order to be a regular polygon, all the sides and angles must be the same length. So we're going to do we're going to do this problem. So we want, this is the formula. So it's apothegm, and I'm going to write it out. Apothegm times perimeter. That's not how you spell that. Perimeter divided by 2. So step 1 is to find the central angle. Here's the deal. Technically, the central angle is just 360 divided by the number of sides. But what we're going to look at is the central angle of 360 divided by 2 times the number of sides, because we really want like half the central angle. So we want to find half the central angle, but I wrote it as central angle because it's the angle that's in the center. So 360 divided by 2 times the number of sides. So we count it. It's different, depending on the shape, this number will change. But ultimately, it's 360 divided by 10. So 36 is going to be the central angle for this one. All right. And then what we're going to do is draw in our apothegm. So from the center to the edge. So just like we drew in for these other shapes, here's our apothegm. And we are going to then create a right triangle and connect once to the one of the vertices. And then our central angle is going to go right there. So I'll give you a second to get that down. All right, since we are given a side, you're going to be given one of 3 different things. You're either going to be given the side or the apothegm, or this is called the radius from the center to the edge. So the whole side is 10. We need to cut that in half, and we need to show that this is going to be 5. Y'all see that's like half of a triangle, and so that is half of the side. And so we need to find the apothegm and the perimeter. Okay, what does that mean? Well, I'm going to write A equals, and I'm going to write P equals. I need to find the length of this apothegm. So I'm going to put an X right there because I want to know what is the length of that side. Okay? The length of this side is going to be, we're going to use trig to solve for that. But actually, let's pause for a second. Can we find the perimeter with the information that we have so far? Like, how many sides does that shape have? It's a pentagon. It has 5 sides. So we can go ahead and find the perimeter. The perimeter is going to be 50. We take 10, which is the length of one side. We multiply it by 5. You can find the perimeter. And then we're going to use trig to solve for the apothegm. So here's my triangle. It's X, it's 5, it's 36. This is my O, and this is my A. If you have forgotten this, this is a good reminder. We're going to do it. We're going to work on it some more tomorrow. So there's my O, and there's my A. So some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on apples. Tangent of your angle equals 5 over X. And then we've got to make sure our calculator is in degree, and this one is. My particular calculator is in degree. So we are going to realize that X is on bottom. So like when you cross multiply, pretty much you're just switching the X and the tangent of 36. 5 divided by tangent of 36. X is on bottom, so you divide. And then you're going to end up, so here's what we're going to do. We are going to not round this super close. We're going to do 6.882. We're going to round it to the nearest thousandth. Oh, y'all can see that better now. 6.882. And then at the end, we'll round it to the nearest tenth. Okay? Now we just plug in our numbers and we're done. So is it a lot of steps for one problem? Yeah, it's a lot of steps for one problem, but you're not going to have to do many problems at one time. So the apothem is, I'm going to put it in parentheses, 6.882. And then the perimeter is 50. We're going to divide by 2. And you get like 172.1. All right, so moving on to the next page. We have this triangle here. This is 1.7 for the apothem. So I'm just going to rewrite that there. So remember, this is technically it's half the central angle because the central angle would be this entire triangle. But we just want half of it. 360 divided by 2 times, now it's 6. So 360 divided by 12 is going to be 30 degrees. So this angle is 30. Alright, so next step is to find the apothem and the perimeter. Here's the deal. We already have the apothem. That is done. We need to figure out the perimeter. In order to figure out the perimeter, you got to figure out this side length there. So we are again going to use tangent. 1.7, there we go. And then this is x. So we have the O and we have the A. So tan of my angle equals x over 1.7. Oh, I wrote 36 on accident. My bad. This is 30. Accidentally wrote 36, so let's change that to 30. Alright. And so this side length is, it's like 0.9814. So it's a small number, which makes sense because it needs to be, you know, a smaller number since it's across from there. This is shorter than that. So what we've got to do is we've got to take this number and we've got to then find the perimeter. So the perimeter is going to take that and multiply it by 2. That finds the length of this side. And then how many sides are there? There's 6. Remember, we don't want to round anything. We're going to round, or everything's going to be rounded to the 1000th place until that last step, and then we can round it to the 10th. So that's the apothem times the perimeter, and then divide the whole thing by 2. So 1.7 times, divide all that by 2, and you end up getting 10 or 10.0 for the area. Alright, last one. So 360 divided by 2 times 8, or 360 divided by 16. You get 22.5 for the angle. 22.5. We are looking for, this is what gets kind of funky here. We are looking for 2 things now, x and y, because we're given the radius, which is the hypotenuse. Problem is, this is your A, this is your O, this is your H. You have to use trig twice to solve this. So the apothem is our x. Let's solve for that first. So we're going to use A and H. So caught another hippie. Some old hippie caught another hippie. Tripping on apples. So we are going to use cosine to solve for x. Cosine of our angle, 22.5, equals x over 6. The nice thing is that you're always going to multiply because your variable is on top for this type of problem. Not always for all the problems, but for this type. So x equals 6 times cosine of 22.5. So you're going to get 5.543. That is my apothem. Great. All right, now we're going to use sine. Six times sine of 22.5. So y equals 2.296. And notice, I mean, that makes sense because that's a shorter side. But we want to take this number. We want to then figure out, okay, what's the length of the entire side? So this y is 2.296. If we multiply that number by 2, we're going to get the length of an entire side, so 4.592. We can just leave that in your calculator. And then how many total sides are there? There's 8 total sides. It's a stop sign. So we take that number, multiply it by 8, you're going to get 36.738. Let's round everything to the thousandth. All right. So 5.543, 36.738 divided by 2, and then we're done. So 101.8. And if you round something like to the 10th, round it early, it's not going to be detrimental. It'll be okay. It'll just be slightly off at the end. So it would say like 101.7 maybe if you round it early. All right. That's how to do these.